Hi. So in today's video, we're looking at task 6, which is the OECD Index graph. So I've gone through, once again, I've done a screencast, which means I recorded how I would look up the information. I've gone through the OECD Index graph and shown you how it works and some of the features of it. So hopefully that will help you answer question 6 or task 6. Once again, question 6 of task 6 is quite a long and detailed response, so that's the one that you probably need to focus on. I haven't gone through it in the detail that I did with task 5, but I've tried to show you around the graph a little bit and show you how to find some of the information that you'll need to answer those questions. Have fun! Today we're going to look at topic 6, which is looking at the OECD Index, which is another graph showing us how different countries perform on different criteria. So to get to that, we need to go to the topics, then to the OECD Better Life Index. Okay, so the OECD is the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development. And they created this graph to get an idea about how people felt about where they lived using certain criteria. Now, not every country in the world is represented in this graph. I'm not sure how the countries were chosen. I think it's a voluntary thing, and these countries were selected or chose to be represented within this graph. So let's just scroll down the page until we get to the assignment. So there are a series of questions which really are your basic reading the graph type questions. So asking to record the name of the country with the highest rank, the lowest ranking for those different criteria, comparing countries, comparing men and women, and then having a go at creating or adding your information to this graph. And then task 6 is a longer assignment which asks you to compare two different countries. So first of all, let's actually just have a look at the graph. So if you click on the link here, it will open up a tab which will give you this. Now sometimes it doesn't work on the school laptops, particularly Internet Explorer. If you are having problems with it loading, if you open using either Safari if you're using a Mac, or if you open using Mozilla and Firefox, that often has a better result. If not, have a chat to the IT guys, and there may be some settings that you can change to get it to load. Okay, so this is what the graph essentially looks like. There's some information underneath. There's a lot of information on here, but we're only going to be looking at really the graph itself. So as you hover over each of these flowers, you'll see that it highlights information about each country. So for example, for Denmark, we've got housing, income, jobs, community, education, environment, civic engagement, health, life satisfaction, safety and work balance. And you'll see down here that they are the same scales that each of these represent. So here's Australia up near the top, and some of the lower countries are countries like Mexico. And if you just have a quick look at the income, which is the second tab underneath here, you can see that the income in Mexico is quite low compared with Australia, where that blue one is quite high. Now, this graph that we see in front of us is a summary of all the results, but we can change the results according to what we prioritize over the side here. So if I want to look at countries that rate housing as something that I want to value or see as important, we click on the housing, which looks at your housing conditions and spending. That's my priority, so I'll move the scale over to the positive. Now what we have here, we saw the graph change, and the graph changed according to which countries value or have the highest ratings according to housing. So Mexico is still down the bottom here. We see Australia still at the top, and Norway is probably one of the highest. So if you want to live in a country that has the best housing conditions, then Norway is probably the place to go. So let's just take that one back to 0. Now, let's have a look at safety. So what are some of the safest countries in the world? So we can move that scale along to safety. Once more, the graph changes. And we have a lot more countries near the top. Once again, Norway ranks pretty high. Australia ranks pretty high as well. And we can actually get to the point where we can say, well, I want to look at countries, let's move that one back, that rank housing, education, and the environment as high on their scales. So they are the things that I'm looking at. So straight away we can see that the top countries, places like Sweden, Norway, Finland, Canada, and Australia all rank quite high on those categories. Now we can actually move these right back to say that they're not important at all, and that will change the scale a little bit. Okay, so let's have a look, see if we can get Mexico up the top here. Let's reset. And Mexico's quite high on the life satisfaction. So let's say I don't care about anything else, I just want to see the countries where I'm going to be overall pretty happy. So Mexico does jump up the scale a little bit more. But if you want to be happy, it looks like Norway's the place to go. So we know now that we can manipulate that graph to show us different criteria. So if we go back to the questions, question 1, and I won't go through all the questions, I'll just go through the first one to give you an idea about how to do it. So question 1, record the name of the country with the highest rank for the following topics. So the country with the highest work-life balance. So that is under, here we are, work-life balance. So we'll move that over to the scale. The country with the highest work-life balance is Denmark at the top here. So when you're actually recording these answers, you should be recording them as sentences. So you would write down for question 1, Denmark is the name of the country with the highest work-life balance, rather than just writing the answer down. Question 2, 1B, we're looking at income. So we go back to the graph. We reset this so they're all back to 0. And now we're just looking at income. So we'll just move that income scale across. Okay, so the country which shows us the best household income and financial wealth is the United States of America. The country with the highest level for safety. Once again, reset, click safety, click safety. Okay. The safest country, now this gets a little trickier because there's quite a few up near the top here. I'm tempted to think that Australia might just pick the post with that one. So Australia is the country that's ranked as the safest. Remembering also that we've only got limited countries here. So we're not looking at all the countries in the world, we're just looking at the selected range. So out of the OECD Life Index, Australia ranks the highest on safety. And the last one is, reset it, health. Is it health? Okay, so health. So placed at the highest. Once again, Australia ranks really high. And I'm tempted to think that we're probably very close. But yes, Australia would rank the highest for health as well. Okay, so that is how you would answer question 1. Question 2 asks for the lowest ranks for slightly different criteria. Now, the compare your index, I'm not sure, some of these graphs, here we are, compare with others. Okay, so fill in the boxes on the right, then click I'm from Australia, I am female, and I am 45. Now you can fill that box in if you like. And then we submit your index. Okay, so now we can go to explore the map. Okay, so we get another visual representation of that information according to people who have submitted information on there. So if we click on Australia, we can see that most of the people who have submitted information are between 15 to 24 years old. Most of them are male, a slight increase. And this is how people have ranked their positions. So we can now compare that with something like Afghanistan. And we can see that Afghanistan ranks people work-life balance slightly less. Health is about the same. The life satisfaction is higher in Australia. Education is ranked a lot higher in Australia than what in Afghanistan. So it gives us a whole range of information that we can use to compare Australia with other countries. Okay, comparing men and women. Only in 7 of the OECD countries do men rank higher. Okay, so let's get back to the original graph. So we want to compare men and women, so we can actually click on here where it says gender difference. And we come up with a slightly different graph where the women are in red and the men are in blue, black. So let's have a look at that question again. we are looking at only in 7 countries do men rank higher. So, in what countries are men above the red, sorry. Now, this may have possibly changed since I created the question. I'm just looking now to see if there are any countries. Oh, here we go. So France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Korea, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Slovenia, and Switzerland. Now, I didn't count, but I reckon that's more than 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's actually increased since I wrote the question. So for question 4, just write down as many countries that there are higher. Question 5, create your own Better Life Index. Now, I can't do this, and I'm assuming it's because I've already completed that task. But down, we go back to the original graph. There's a share your index. No, that's not it. Where is it? Oh, here we are. Yep. So create your Better Life Index. Rate the topics according to their importance to you. So I would rank housing as quite important, so I just move it. Yeah. Okay, let me just refresh the page because it's not working for me at the moment. There we go. So income is moderately important to me. Jobs are quite important. Because I've got this giant mouse. Community, quite low. I'm not. Education I rank as very high. The environment, moderately high. Civic engagement, I want to live in a democracy. Health, very high. Life satisfaction, high. Safety, high. Work-life balance, moderate. Okay, so once you've filled in that, then you click Share Your Index and you become part of the information. So rank the topics according to how important each of them. Justify your rankings. Why do you think some of the topics are more important than the others? So I would be looking in your response for primarily ones that you ranked really high and perhaps the ones that you ranked really low, and just giving me a bit of explanation about some of those higher ones and why you think they're important, and also some of the lower ones. The ones that are in the middle, you kind of don't have to talk about that much, but look, focus mainly on the ones on either end of the scale. Okay, so question 6, compare and contrast the Better Life Index between Australia and another OECD country. As I showed you before, if we go back, let's just go back to the home graph and reset that. Okay, so what we're looking at now is we want to choose 2 countries to compare. So we can do that by if we explore the map, and then we click on the country that we want to look at. So in most cases, oh, that's right. So what we'll do is we click on it because we're comparing Australia. So click on Australia, and then down here, as I did before, click on another country, and there you've got your comparison. So this comparison is according to the people who have written in with the information. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that, just go along with me. I was just checking where the information came from. So the information on the primary graph, so the big graph that we're looking at, comes from official sources such as the OECD, national banks, etc. But the information that we're looking at when we do that comparison comes from people who have actually responded. Okay, so this comparison, so question 6, where it asks you to compare and contrast between Australia and another OECD country, you are comparing, this one compares what people think. We go to the main graph, this is what the statistics show us. So I don't mind which one you use, whether you use the official records or whether you go on to explore the map and use that one. This one. So it doesn't matter which one you use, but you need to make sure that you're clear in your discussion, in your write-up, that this is the one that you've used. So you've used people's opinions with Explore the Map, or you've used official statistics with the main index. So if you're going to use a main index to compare, if you click on the actual country itself, so let's click on Australia, it will actually bring up a page of the information and explaining things like the life expectancy, work-life balance. So it gives you a little bit more detail and gives you individual graphs, which you can then use to compare it. Sorry, my mouse is so big, but you can use it to compare with different countries using these individual graphs. I don't think there's a feature. Oh, here we are. You can compare it. Yay! So if we compare that to Brazil, we can see on these individual graphs that Brazil is showing up. So that gives us straight away a very good visual representation of Australia compared to Brazil. So this is Australia and this is Brazil. So at this stage, I'm not sure whether you can actually get a copy of those graphs to include in your write-up. I would suggest the best solution is to probably screenshot those if you want to use them. And likewise with this information, you may be better off actually either cutting and pasting onto a Word document with the other country that you're going to compare and printing it out and reading it on that rather than going from this page to the page of the other country that you're going to compare it with. Because it'll be easier to flick open. The other thing that you could do is have two windows open at the same time and have both of that information at the same time open. So question 6, you need to make a comparison. Like I said, you can compare people's opinions using the map, or you can compare the original statistics. you're looking at only 3 or 4 categories, and you're looking at writing a comparison, writing things that are similar about the two countries and things that are different, and suggesting reasons why they might be different. I have included a sample discussion here for you to have a look at, but otherwise, have a play around with that graph. It's quite interesting to see the way that it's set out. There is a lot more information on the countries themselves and on this actual page about. So if you're not sure what the housing section is, you can go to, and it explains exactly how it defines housing, and can even give you information about housing for each of the countries. So there's a lot more information on that page and on that site than I've actually gone through. So have a play around with it, but hopefully that helps you get a bit of an idea about how to answer those questions, and just make sure that you're referencing and putting the information and putting the detail into your responses. Thanks. Bye.